This is a Martin B-26 Marauder named Flak-Bait. It's a medium bomber that flew with the 9th Air Force during World War II, and it's the American airplane that flew the most missions of any other during that conflict. The 9th Air Force was a tactical air force, and so they flew in support of an anticipation of the Allied invasion in June 1944, and then they went across into France and Belgium to support that force as they rolled across Northern Europe. In August 1943, flies all the way to the end of the war till May of 1945. Missions include flying during the D-Day invasion in support of that, during the Battle of the Bulge. And so the missions that these type of aircraft would have flown would have been to affect the outcome of the war on the battlefield. So they would have been flying against troop concentrations, rail yards, signal stations, just a way they can disrupt the way the Nazis could fight against the Allies. I think it's 150,000 tons of bombs are dropped by B-26s. And so it's a fast airplane, in which it's a 220-mile-per-hour cruise, but it lands about 100 miles an hour. So there's a very small window of operational of slow to fast with this airplane. But they do their job very well, and the crews that use them really learn to love this airplane. What's so unique about Flak-Bait is it starts out with an original crew, and they're led by Jim Farrell. He's called the boss. You can see his name on the side of the fuselage. And he names the airplane Flak-Bait, which is a combination of the German word for anti-aircraft artillery and his brother's dog back home named Flea-Bait. And so this original crew, they fly in Flak-Bait, and they do their certain number of missions, and they go home. And the airplane stays with the 449th Bomb Squadron, and it's just an airplane that other crews fly. If their airplane's down, they fly in it. If they have a crew of mix and match, these guys fly the airplane as well. So there's really up to 100 different individuals who have flown this airplane over the course of those 200 missions. Flak-Bait is really important in the sense that no crew were lost in this airplane. At one point there's cannon damage where the plexiglass nose disintegrates in the face of the bombardier. They lose an engine, they lose the electrical system, but it always gets back. So every mission, that sense of its survivability. But it's also seen by the crews as that's kind of like the beat up airplane at the corner of the airfield that they didn't really want to fly, and they were stuck in, but it always came back. June of 1944, Flak-Bait reaches its 100th mission. A week before, another B-26 makes a 100th mission. So that's showing these airplanes are getting the missions, the crews are getting the experience, they're building up this tally of experience. And so in terms of Flak-Bait being known for what it was actually pretty unknown. When it reached that 200 mission though, it's April 17th, 1945. And it makes the newspapers, it makes the military newspapers especially. But what's interesting about that story is that you're getting towards the end of the war. There may be an end in sight, there may not be. But there's a story of this airplane named Flak-Bait. How many bombs it's dropped, how it's a survivor. And it leads this bomb group, the 322nd Bomb Group, to a target in Germany and back. And so it's sort of just part of the news, of what's going on in the war. So it's not seen as this great war here. It's not known like other airplanes that we're going to come to know in the lore of World War II. But the Army Air Forces at the end of the conflict, May 1945 in Europe, the chief of the Army Air Forces, Henry Hap Arnold, sets this airplane specifically aside. So other B-26s are being demolished because it's a type that's not going to survive into the post-war period. And they set this airplane aside to say, we're going to put this in a museum to save it for its record of service during World War II. It's a time capsule of the air war over Europe during World War II. And this is an original airplane. It's got some damage from being transported back to the US. It's been stored. It's gotten dirtier over the years, but it's essentially as it was at the end of that conflict when it was disassembled. And so the primary goal of this project is to clean and stabilize and preserve the artifact and then put it on display as a fully assembled airplane. The first time it's been all together since 1946.